Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner-operator of Something Wicked Entertainment Event, and welcome to this special episode today. So, you're wondering why I'm calling this a special episode? Well, if you've been following our show, we rarely ever do a more recent movie as our mode of conversation because we like to talk about older films that people have forgotten about, or films people haven't seen in a very long time. But today we're doing an episode on a movie of which is actually currently still at the theater, because me and my special guest today, Philip Ray — thank you, Philip Ray, for joining the conversation today.
Thank you for having me.
We decided that we were going to take a little detour on our regular show and talk about a movie that's still at the theater as though it just came out at the theater. So you're watching this episode before it's out of the theater. Now, that being said, unfortunately, if you have not seen the movie that we are going to talk about, we may talk about spoilers. And if you don't want to listen to spoilers, you just won't need to just skip this episode until after you've seen the movie. And what movie is that we're going to be talking about? Well, it is the recently released movie, Final Destination: Bloodlines. Now, we're only talking about this movie really because there are 5 other films before this, and this is what we like to call, or what has been called in more recent times, a more like legacy sequel, because it's still a sequel, but it's 14 years after the last one. And it does have one actor or character who actually shows up in this one and reprises his same role as he did in previous films, which is Tony Todd, the belated Tony Todd, who passed away after making this film. And he plays the Dr. Bloodworth in this film, the coroner. But we're going to get all of that later. For now, just reminding you, if you've not seen the movie Final Destination: Bloodlines, don't listen to this episode because we may spoil things for you. So come back after you watch the film and then listen to our podcast. Okay? Okay. So just to let everyone know who's listening, I'm gonna talk about this first before I let Philip talk about this. I've never been a huge fan of the Final Destination franchise. I've seen the first one like 4 or 5 times, and then the second one twice, and haven't bothered to watch any of the other ones more than the one time I saw them at the theater. But this film, the new one, Bloodlines, I absolutely loved and think it is one of the best sequels in the franchise. That being said, Philip, what was your impression of this film? Because I didn't get into any details yet about mine. What was yours?
So again, doing a review of Final Destination series, I have seen the first 3, not seen 4 and 5 before seeing this. And again, like Final Destination, it was fine. Like the first 3 were fine. I thought, I never was in love with the series, but I thought it was fine. And then came viewing, but I originally was not planning to watch Bloodlines. I only decided to go see the movie once I heard the good press. And I will say, having seen the movie, I really, really like it too. I was very surprised how much I like this movie.
So you didn't watch the 4th and 5th one, and I saw them at the theater in 3D. My older sister, absolutely loves these movies, has seen them a billion times. I've had to buy them all for her so she can watch them a billion times. And she was like salivating when I showed her the trailer for this movie, because she had no idea they were bringing out another one 14 years after the last one. So she's been dying to see this movie for like the last year. I showed her the poster, or a version of the poster, before they actually released the trailer. Then she loved the trailer, and I had to go see it on opening weekend because she's such a huge fan. That being said, I'm like you. I heard the great press, the great critical reaction to the film and the audience reaction, and said, oh, well, shit, this might actually be a good movie. Now, that being said, I really liked the concept of the franchise. And most of that came from the first film from Darren Wong and James. God, I may have gotten their names backwards. But they're the alumni from the X-Files. And Final Destination was one of their first films when they splinter off.
James Wong.
James, yeah, thank you. Is it Darren Morgan and James Wong?
It's just James Wong.
Yeah, they write and produce, or they kind of flip flop their roles for most of their entire career until recently they split up at some point. But yeah, they used to be partners when they worked for the X Files, creating some of the best episodes of the X Files, and then moving on to Millennium. And so I was very familiar with their work. And so I was a huge fan of the first Final Destination, which, like I said, I've seen 4 or 5 times. It also had Devin Sawa in it, who I actually love as an actor. He just has great comedic timing and suspense timing in everything he's in, and he's fucking great in this movie. And he's a young person in this movie. Watch some of the stuff that Devin Sawa is doing now, and it's like, wow, he's still a great actor. But for Bloodlines retains some of that great writing that they had in Final Destination, but amps it up because it kind of like wants to make everything make sense by playing with this whole family aspect. The reason why I love this movie so much is the fact that because it's a whole family aspect, you get to learn more about these individual characters, than you did of any characters in any of the previous films, and that makes this movie much more interesting.
Yeah, one of the biggest positives of this movie is the family, because unlike in the previous Final Destination movies, they had a big problem with their characters, because a lot of the time you always had characters, half of them were annoying, and you're just waiting for them to die. You hate them. There's always the comic relief characters that are annoying, that you're just, again, a lot of the characters are being stupid, and you just want them to die. Versus Bloodlines, where they do a great job. Caitlin Juwana, I mean, butcher the last name, who plays the lead, she does a great job. She's very interesting, and even in everyone in the family, there's like 1 or 2 members of the family who are slightly can get annoying at times, but honestly, you enjoy all of them. You actually don't want them to die, but you know they're going to die because it's a Final Destination movie. But they actually do a good job this time, making you care about the characters, and I think by making them a family, that helped raise the stakes a lot better than in previous movies.
It does, and you talk about one of the characters that might be annoying in this one. I know who you're talking about because I love this actor because he's done a lot of horror films for me, and that's Richard Harmon. I had to make sure I got his name right because he's played in so many other films I've seen him in, and he's like the annoying brother who's supposed to be the older brother with all the piercings, and he's the tattoo artist, and he has one of my favorite sequences in the movie.
Which again, that was this again. Now we're in spoilers here. The fact that, because again, I'm not sure if you saw the trailers or not, but
yes, I saw.
So the fact that they showed his scene, his character's name's Eric. They show like his implied death in the trailers and stuff. And again, I thought that was so clever because all the time now with these especially in horror movies, they always have to show a death, or they have to. Because, I mean, that was one of my biggest pet peeves about Alien Romulus, is they show at least 2 or 3 character deaths in the trailers.
Yeah.
And the cast was like 6 characters. I'm like, I already know how half of them died. And in this movie, they do that with Eric, that you think. You watch the scene, and you're like, okay, yep, there's like in the trailers, this is how he's going to die. And then they show he's alive in the next scene, and I'm like, that's so clever. That was such a clever thing to do.
It was really clever, and not just that. It's clever how they intertwine why he, story-wise, why he survives.
Yes.
I thought the movie was extremely, and this is where I said the writing is where this movie gets, because having it take place in it was the 60s or 50s when it opens up.
It was about 60s.
Yeah, and then jumping into the present day. And then you have to figure out the story as it goes along, I thought was really brilliant. And then having stuff like that, and it does it throughout the whole film. When they're having the picnic with the whole family picnic, where you're seeing all the things that could be a problem, and it sometimes is, or in the sequence where Eric does meet his actual demise, it's a long setup. Unlike being a really quick setup and then someone dying, it's a long setup, and you have no idea what's going to happen. And that's what makes this film so enjoyable and so suspenseful.
The best thing about the Final Destination movies, and this movie does it the best, is it plays on your fears. The thing is, like, again, the opening sequence with the tower, we've all been there where we've gone on an elevator where it's been too packed and you go, I hope we're not past capacity. Like I can tell you in the picnic with the glass falling into the water skeeved me out so much because that basically happened to me. It wasn't glass, but it was plastic. Where basically somehow plastic got into my water and I almost swallowed it. And so the thing is, that's one of the best things about Final Destination is it plays onto your fears about, oh, what if this happens? Like everyone's had those moments of like, well, what if this happens or this happens? And the movie does it, and it does it so well. And it's just done like, and again, and the Rube Goldberg is stuff that they do. It's just so great because you're constantly wondering, oh, is this going to happen? Like, I love when they go in the hospital. Again, they're trying to help prevent Bobby from dying, and they see as they're going in, they see the little kind of turntable door. That's not the proper name for it, but I can't remember what it is. And like they had that comedic moment where they're trying to like get through, but they like hold on to that frame for a while after they leave, and you go, oh geez, is he gonna die from that? Like all the constant fake outs, it's just so good at building up the suspense.
It is, because they take so long, you sometimes forget about it until it comes back and it means something. Because that whole sequence in the hospital you mentioned, where they're first trying to get into the vending machine and they break the spring, and you think something's going to happen right then and there, and then you forget about it. You completely forgot about it until it comes back up at the entire end of that whole sequence. It's like, damn, I didn't see that coming at all. That was, and the scene when in the picnic scene, when you mentioned the glass in the water, you are following all this shit that could be a problem throughout the entire sequence, but you don't know what's going to happen to any of these characters, because at that time we don't know how it all works yet. They haven't figured all this stuff out. We just think someone's going to get it, but it's not who we're thinking. And it's a fake out. It's one of the best fake outs in the entire movie because we haven't been privy to the rules yet. And I was like, dude, that is and it's a elongated sequence too. First, you see the rake underneath the trampoline, and then it's such a brilliantly choreographed, and the cinematography is magnificent in that sequence, among a lot of the sequences.
Yes. And again, like another big thing too, and going but to the writing, is the comedy. The comedy in this is exactly the right amount of it. Again, the movie's a dark comedy to a point, and it's done really well. Like every Final Destination, the character as a premonition always is kind of privy about what's going on, but the fact this movie deconstructs that, and you have the Iris character who starts out with, again, knowing everything. Again, I got a huge chuckle at the beginning when Iris is talking to Stephanie, and we see earlier, like, again, the Rube Goldberg starts to happen with like the magnifying glass gets hit and it starts to slowly burn the rope, and she looks over and sees it and she's like, nice try, and like knocks it off. And again, it's just like, and then again, that goes on to Stephanie and stuff. And again, like the fact that everyone now is aware and is actually like, and so they see the small things and they are aware about it and they play on that comedy to a point, just makes it so funny. The theater I watched the movie with constantly was laughing with all the great little jokes like that.
You bring up one of the aspects that I really loved about the film too, because Iris, because she lived through the first incident and she saw the actual death of everyone before it actually happened. But Stephanie, is Stephanie your name?
Yes.
She never sees anything before it happens. She only sees what happened to Iris. So it's different than the other movies. She doesn't see what happens to the other ones. She's learned by looking at the book to feel something's not right. And that's what I loved about this one too. It's different than the other movies because she doesn't have a premonition herself about everyone dying. Unfortunately, it makes for a much more comedic aspects of the film, especially when she thinks she knows what's going to happen with the no, Eric character.
Yes.
Yeah, he survives his first ordeal, and she's trying to convince him that he's still in danger, and he's thinking he's invincible. Like I said, I love that actor. He does such a great job in this movie.
And it goes with such a good payoff too of why he survives. Like in the end of him surviving, the payoff for that was such a, again, the theater I watched it in, everyone was just started laughing at the payoff of why Eric survived.
Yeah, at least up to that point.
Yeah, at least up to that point. Which again, like if we're talking about our favorite like kills in the movie, Eric's has to be the best and the most brutal.
It is so brutal with him. I don't know if it's his best. His is brutal. It is brutal. I happen to like the very ending, the way the movie ended.
Yeah, that was another good comedicness.
It's comedic, and yet it made me laugh because that's essentially how it starts off. You see that shot early in the movie when they're introducing the whole neighborhood, and you see the train tracks, and it makes you think that's like in the other Final movie, this movie, something's going to happen with these train tracks. Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen, and nothing ever does.
Yeah,
they set it up, and then the payoff is at the very end.
It's like with the coin. You see the coin roll it, and the woman grabs it, and you go. I originally was like, what does that mean? And you see the payoff at the end with it, and it's just like everything in this movie, they have a fantastic payoff.
It does, and that's why I really enjoyed the film, and I think the writing is good because this film is playing the long game with a lot of this stuff, and it goes to the theme of the movie. Death is finally getting around to this family after how many decades, 20 years, over 20 years. He's on his own timetable. He's saying, I finally got around to this family again.
Yes, because they show, like, again, there was so many, he had a long laundry list to go through and stuff.
And I'm glad that it only that's all kind of in the background, all of that, what happens in the other movies. You could see all that images in the book that Iris has been keeping and newspaper articles, and it references some of the incidents in the other movies, and that's about all you get. So that if you've never seen a Final Destination movie, watching this one you don't have to watch any, have never seen the other ones to enjoy this one on its own. It's a movie that stands on its own.
Correct. It is a movie that, if you've seen the other movies, there are small little winks and nods. Like in the book, they do some references to the other movies. And they actually directly reference Final Destination 2, the fact that they revealed that Kimberly, the main character from that, is the only one who's ever survived before, which is a cool little moment there. But again, you don't have to watch the other movies to enjoy this movie. But it is nice to have seen the other movies, especially going with William Bloodworth, Tony Todd characters, having everything with the payoff with his character, finally knowing everything about why his character knows everything.
Yeah.
Stuff. It's great that they finally gave that character background. But again, you don't have to have seen other movies for it to really hit. But if you've seen other movies, it's great.
Yeah, and it was great. He has such a great. It's hard for me to say this because I've been a huge Tony Todd fan since he starred in Night of the Living Dead 1990 version, and so it was very tragic for me when he passed away because I've been following his career. Despite all the low budget movies he did, I've still watched most of them. But this film right here for me is like the quintessential way for him to have ended his career prior to his death, because so much is said in the lines that he crafted and the writers crafted for his send-off before he walks away, knowing his own fate will eventually come.
It's such a great, respectful scene, and apparently half of it was improvised. The directors actually told Tony, because again, at the time they all knew. I mean, you can see he definitely is very late in his stomach cancer and stuff.
Mhm.
And they basically told Tony just to say everything off the cuff. So one of his famous last lines at the end of like "Death comes for us all," like enjoy every moment of it. That was from him off the cusp, and it's so chilling knowing that he passed away soon after. It's like him directly registering like he knows I'm going to die very soon.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to you from the grave, and it's done so respectfully.
It's so, and that doesn't happen very much. But it's because you mentioned it, and I want to make sure that everyone who's listening gets the exact line because it's now become something on the internet. His lines, his final lines here. And this is quoting. I intend to enjoy the time I have left, and I suggest you do the same. Life is precious. Enjoy every single second. You never know when. Good luck. And so that is such. I mean, it's a fitting end to not only his character, but for a career for one of my favorite actors of all the time. Because he played not only because he played in Night of the Living Dead remake, and everyone knows how much I love that movie, but also because I followed his career for so long, and it's so good to see that his final movie had. This is how his legacy will be remembered.
Yes, it is very respectful. And honestly, what makes it so good too is honestly, at the end of the day, that quote is the message of the series.
Yes.
It's
yes.
the fact that you have all these characters who can die at any moment. You've got to enjoy it because again, regardless of what you do, death will come for all of us all.
Mm-hmm.
But you just don't know it, and you got to enjoy it.
Yeah. And I mean, essentially, that's the main theme of the entire series, but definitely in this film, considering Stephanie's character and how much before this event she was isolating herself from her entire family to then becoming someone who's at her brother's wedding.
A prom thing.
Huh?
Prom.
Is it prom? Oh, see,
yeah,
I can't remember. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's prom because it's the girl he's been pining for. See, I saw it once, dude. I had, I'm trying to remember all the details, but I don't remember all the details like that. I was too busy paying attention to everyone dying.
Yeah, and again, it was. I also very much enjoyed that at the end too, with the fake out where again they think they're good. Again, we have this with other Final Destination, but they think they're good, and like the joke here of just like going like, no, you definitely did not die. Because again, what was great is that was also a thing in. Again, that's how this Final Destination 2 ended. Is actually with the Kimberly character goes into underwater and basically dies from that, but then gets brought back to life from the doctor. And that was a good play on with this. Is Stephanie does something similar to her happens if she drowns, and she's get brought back to life with CPR. But the difference is, but again, a different outcome because this time she didn't actually stay dead. She was just unconscious, which is a great play on the fact of earlier. Again, the payoff of referencing Kimberly. And you see at the end, like, oh, okay, she's going to survive. Like, Kimberly is like, no, she's not.
Well, the great thing is that they also borrowed some themes from the second film in terms of the logs, because the train crash at the end, you think it's going to be a train and all that hits her and all that, and all of a sudden you see the logs come off from off the train.
Yes.
Me and my sister were both like, holy shit, this was a great ending for the movie. I don't know if there's a film series where you're glad they survive, but then you're also glad that they end up dying at the end too, because essentially that's how most of these Final Destination movies end.
Yes, again, what's great about the film is that you care about these characters and to a point you don't want them to die, but you also do want them to die because that's why you came to see the movie in the first place. Again, it's a good parallel. So, small little behind the scenes facts. This is the crazy part. So, the directors, Zach and Adam, the last movie they did before this was Kim Possible, the live action, straight to TV Kim Possible. And then they also have done like Leprechaun Origins, and they did a Dead Rising. Like their background, not that impressive. So the fact that they like produced this movie, like they directed this movie, is like it's crazy. I'm like, this is the best movie they've both done.
Well, it's also because I forget the big name guy who's involved in this movie. This
Uh, John Watts wrote the
John
script.
Watts. John Watts. So I think with his guidance, the movie is. I mean, because to be honest with you, if he hadn't been involved, I doubt we would be seeing a sequel at all. Because it's 14 years later, and despite the fact my sister has probably been pining for this for 14 years, I don't think anybody actually was thinking about doing another one. The last one kind of ended it when it kind of went full circle to the events in the first movie. At least I think that's how it ended. Like I said, I've only ever seen the fourth and fifth one once.
Yeah, it's how it ends.
Okay. So they ended the franchise in a good way where it all went full circle. This film just found another avenue on which to expand on it, yet bring everything full circle. And it's such a well crafted movie for a franchise that they could have just done anything. Honestly, Final Destination franchise could just bring a bunch of other groups of people to come and they see a premonition and then they try and escape death. It's kind of like the hallmark makeup of franchise sequels that just people want to see more people die. But this film wanted to be something more than just a standard slasher film. It wanted to elevate the story and hopefully convince audiences that there's still some good life left in the Final Destination franchise if you just take the time to craft it.
Oh yeah, right now, I mean, again, we are definitely going to get another Final Destination movie. This is again the best reviewed in the series and is made the most money in the series so far. Yeah. So, we're definitely going to get another one. I'm curious if because the original concept for this story was a lot different. Originally, yes. It was going to be about EMTs, firefighters, like police officers. It was going to be about. That was going to be the cast. It was basically a cast of first responders. So maybe we'll get that in the sequel, or we'll get something else, whatever it is. As long as, again, I think the big takeaway from this movie that hopefully they continue on is, I think it's, again, is not to play itself too seriously. Because I think that's one issue with some of the other ones is they play themselves too seriously to a point. And I think they have comedic characters, but the overall movie is too serious for itself. And I think with the concept of it, that's why this movie's so good, is because they know the premise is kind of ridiculous to a point too, and they play up that to a point, but not enough where it's too campy, but enough that's like that it's still fun and enjoyable.
Well, I don't think this ever hits upon camp. I do believe that it has a lot of humor in it, but the humor is from the characters and or their experiences, which is what makes what happens with the Iris character and the Eric character so interesting. Iris being the person who's been avoiding death for 20 years, and an Eric character because he's got this no nonsense, I don't give a fuck, I pick on my younger brother type of thing, and I can escape death because I actually don't really belong in his family. And I'm a tattoo artist.
Which is also great, like, again, when the reveal, too, of Eric not being related, but he still treats his brother as his actual brother, Bobby. Like, that's again, that, because they easily could have, that scene could have easily been like, hey, we don't see Eric anymore, or he's kind of dismissive, and like, I don't want to deal with you guys anymore. But no, he's like, okay, whatever, I'm kind of mad that fact that I know I'm not actually blood related, but I still want to help you because you are my brother.
Yeah, it's actually quite funny when it's all revealed. He storms out the room because he just can't believe he's been lied to. But then, of course, when they go to the hospital, he jumps on board with the rest of them, even though in theory, he doesn't have to, because they've been warned. I think at that point they've been warned. No, I don't think they have been warned. Or
they got warned midway through that by William Bloodworth. That's like, hey, well, they just get the note of if you try to mess with death, it can get
messy.
messy,
It could get messy.
which of course it did, and that was a good payoff.
That was an excellent payoff. Excellent, because he thinks he's perfectly fine, and then of course the X-ray machine. Oh my God, I was not expecting that at all, and it was a graphic scene and such a well executed graphic scene. And that's the other thing I want to mention is that this is a really graphic film. And
It
yet
is.
it is so well done, and the humor is so well placed that you kind of forget that this is a really bloody and graphic film.
Yes, they have so many good deaths. Like almost every death is graphic. I mean, gosh, even the beginning with like Iris, when Iris decides to basically die to show Steph
Oh my God.
serious, I was like, dang. I'm like, she knew she was going to die that way, but I was like, I don't know if I could willingly accept to die that way because it's so brutal.
Well, any other brutal than when she saw herself die in the little sky needle thing?
That's
Gee,
true.
that was I was not expecting how brutal that was. I was like, holy shit, everyone's dying. People are falling out the fucking sky, landing on.
Which the woman that got set on fire, that was actually a stunt woman who came out of retirement to film that stunt, and it might be the world record for oldest person set on fire on camera. So good for her. Also, again, talking about another good laughing moment, the payoff of the snot-nosed kid getting crushed by the piano. Again, that was a big laugh out moment with the theater I saw it in.
It was for my sister. My sister, we were like, oh, that stupid kid. And then, of course, he gets squashed by a piano, and we were all cheering. I was like, oh my God, this was great. I did it, but everyone was freaking dying graphic deaths. I love the fact that when they fell out the sky needle, people were dropping like flies, hitting their heads on metal and smashing their. I mean, dude, this was a graphic movie.
It is.
But such a great opening.
It's such a good opening. Like they do the actress who plays young Iris, Breck Bressinger. She was so entertaining alone herself that like I could have just continued watching the movie around her and been perfectly fine. Like
Yeah, yeah. You're right. She did an excellent job in that whole beginning sequence. You almost kind of wish you'd see her more in the movie, but we know why because she's older, 20 years older when the rest of the movie happens.
also, it's another small like fun thing they do is this idea that like even if you're able to like know Death's kind of like things to avoid getting brutally murdered by him, his like back card is just cancer. He's just like again like he's so mischievous of like he wants to have like these fun gruesome deaths, but if like worst case scenario he goes, oh, fine, I guess I'll just give you cancer then. It's not how I want to kill you, but I guess if that's what I have to do, I just give you cancer then.
Yeah, because he gives both Iris and Bloodworth cancer because they've survived so long. I was like, oh shit, that's so fucked up.
Yeah, that's just funny. This is like because again, like that's true of like it's always funny to think about like Death is kind of a dick. He'd easily like again make people just like have a heart attack randomly or have a brain aneurysm, but he's like, no, I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna have fun and do something fun. I'm gonna make you get impaled by a wheelchair or have you get crushed by have you get crushed by like
I'm waiting for you. I was waiting for you to say one of my favorite ones, and you'll fucking probably think about this is crazy. Why is when the father gets mauled by the
by the lawnmower? Yeah,
dude. The first image in my head is, oh my God, they got Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man right, and dude, I was like bawling laughing at that. I was like, oh shit, they got it right. Can someone borrow this and make it into the Stephen King Lawnmower Man movie, please? I was like, oh my God, that was so great.
and again, that one has such a great payoff because again, it's like you see because the rake came involved. They hinted about the lawnmower. They hinted about the glass. Like all of them. Like that was probably one of the more real Rube Goldberg like deaths in
Uh-huh.
it because all three were hinted in
Throughout
all
the
of them, but
whole
all
thing.
of them had influence on the death.
And you think the rake isn't going to be, it's a fake out because the one character picks it up, oh, before they fall through. And then, of course, the trampoline actually one of them falls to the train. So it's so many fake outs that works to the film's advantage because of the suspenseful aspects of it. It keeps the audience on the edge of their seats the entire time. More so in this film than some of the other ones. I think by the time they got to 4 and 5 of the franchise, they got a little lazy because you started thinking, "Oh, let's do a tanning bed." And I don't remember which one the tanning bed was in. So
That was on 3.
you see, I don't remember anymore. I said I've only seen that one once. But these ideals that, well, it's going to be the tanning bed, and one of them's going to die in the tanning bed. Okay, but we need to make it creative, but we don't have to think too much about it because everyone's going to know that it's going to be in a tanning bed. This film, a lot of times you don't know. You don't have you think because it's the filmmakers are leading you to a bunch of different aspects, but you don't know how they all pay off until much later. And that's like I said, I think that they did a really really great job. I also think that because they took their time with the sequel, it allowed them to do that. Which unfortunately, when you do a successful sequel years after the last one, they kind of start fast tracking sequels after that. I think that's the problem with like the Scream franchise. The Scream one had a great first one, and then now they're trying to fast track more after that.
Yeah.
Or like the last 3 Halloweens, they weren't designed to be 3, but the first one made so much money. Let's do 2 and just do a second and third one.
Gosh. Well, we can have a whole episode about the new Halloween, and I have a lot of things to say about that.
I'm saving the conversation on those 3 movies for next year. We still have some of the Halloween films previous to those 3 that we still need to discuss.
Yes. But anyway, I think generally, again, this was a great surprise because I think everyone was fearing that this movie was not going to be that good, and it definitely originally this was going to go straight onto streaming.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
So I'm glad that it got a theatrical release, and again, I am very happy overall with everything with the movie. I think this was definitely a dark horse movie. No one, I think, expected this to be as good as it was.
Or be as successful. Remember, the tracking, so to speak, was supposed to be between 30 and 35 million. It opened at 51, somewhere around 51. It took everyone by storm because it's more than any of the other sequels ever opened up to.
Yes.
And so it is doing a lot better because critics liked it and audiences liked it. So generally thinking, I don't know if they were to do a sequel that they could come up with something so creative so fast, because I do believe taking time with this has allowed it to be such a good movie. And since they tied everything literally up from the franchise, trying to pull off another movie is going to be difficult unless you just start from scratch again.
Yes, that's the thing too with this movie that again, it's Hollywood. They definitely could, but honestly, everything with this, it really does feel like a nice bow to the series as well, especially again with the send off with Bloodworth's character, who again we unfortunately will not see again anymore. But I think this everything they did with Bloodworth, everything they do with the references of the previous series, and stuff, this could be the last one, and I think that would be a nice bow to the whole entire franchise.
Yeah. But unfortunately, it was successful in Hollywood. They love their sequels.
Yep, they love their sequels.
Well, let's hope they give 14 more years, but I doubt it. I think they're probably thinking more like you. This was so successful that we need to come on and do another couple more after this.
Well, if it's anything like how when the first Final Destination came out, after the first one, the next 3, Yeah, the next four came 3 years after each other, and then Final Destination 5 came 2 years after the Final Destination. So, if anything, we'll probably expect to see another one in 2028.
Yeah, because I believe the fourth one was the most successful one up till then. So they said, why not do another one? We made a lot of money off that last one. Let's do another one. But I think the reason why the fourth one made so much money is because 3D was just just coming into fruition, and it made a lot of money off there. Kind of like what happened with Piranha 3D and Resident Evil, whichever one they did in 3D, because I can't remember which one they did now.
Oh yeah, the fad of 3D that happened around those couple of years where every movie was making a 3D movie.
Yeah, and they were making a lot of money for a short amount of time. Now, you don't forget, they still release movies in 3D. They're just not marketed like they were back then.
Yeah, it's not a thing where it's like, oh, it's the Avengers 3D, or oh, it's Final Destination Bloodlines 3D.
Yeah. Any final words or things that you want to mention about the Final Destination Bloodlines movie?
No, again, I think this is, if you are a Final Destination fan, definitely see this. You'll enjoy it. And even if you're not a Final Destination fan, I think you will greatly enjoy this as well. If you're any fan of horror movies, this movie was a gigantic surprise for everyone, and I think it's well worth seeing.
I agree. I think this is a pleasant surprise for this year. Other than Sinners, I don't know if there's been another really highly praised horror film this year. There's been horror films. We always get horror films all the time. There's probably been 5 released this whole month, but the only ones that anyone remembers is Sinners and Final Destination.
Hard Eyes, I personally liked a lot. I don't know how well successfully it was in the box office. But that and Companion was another one, but I know Companion did not do well.
Yeah, we've had a lot this year, surprisingly, but none of them that have struck with audiences like Sinners and this one. And it's refreshing that it's on either the spectrum, an original title, Sinners, and a legacy sequel to something people haven't seen in 14 years. It's so odd to see both of these successful in the same month, mind you. But they're both critically successful and they are monetarily successful. And hopefully this trend will continue because we have a few horror films waiting for release this month or this summer before fall starts, and we start getting like I think what's the big one? The Conjuring, Last Rites, among others.
Yeah.
That sounds like a podcast in the waiting if we need to discuss The Conjuring, because I'm a huge fan of that one. But those are the thoughts that I have for this film, because if I have any more thoughts, I'm going to say even more than I probably have already said. That being said, for everyone listening, we like to rate the movies according to our scale of 1 being really poor, the 5 being excellent. Where on the spectrum do you place Final Destination Bloodlines from 2025, Mr. Ray?
It is 4 out of 5 for me. Again, I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's again highly recommended.
All right, I'm gonna say I'm going to say a higher, a little 4.5, mostly because I really think sequels, for the most part, suck. A lot of the times, it's very rare when I find a horror sequel that's actually really good, especially for a franchise I don't pay that much attention to begin with. I think this is an extremely well written film that both plays towards the audiences that like their humor in their horror and horror fans who like their gore in their horror. This plays towards a very wide variety of horror fans out there, and I think that's part of the reason why it's successful. But because it's such a well-written film, it plays well with critics, which is very rare. We may not get very many of those this year. And I'm glad that we have Sinners and we have this one for right now. I'm not hoping for the same type of criticisms for Megan 2.0, even though I know I'll go see that one because I'm sure it's be a really fun movie.
I'm curious how Weapons also is getting.
Yeah, Weapons is another one. That's another one I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping that we have some films out there that are coming up that are designed to be really good movies, whether they're for critics or for audiences. Weapons, I don't see as a film for like the horror gore fans. I see it more for, let's see, the elevated audiences who critics may like this more than audiences. I think it's rare when both horror fans, critics, and general audiences absolutely love a movie. If Weapons becomes another one of those, I will be thankful that general audiences have opened up to something a little different. But that also has another great cast to it, so I'm looking forward to that one. That being said, for everyone out there, I hope that you've enjoyed our not spoilers-free review of Final Destination Bloodlines. We hope that you check out some of our previous episodes. Unfortunately, we have not done any of the other Final Destination films, but if you subscribe, like, follow, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast, you will definitely be able to subscribe and figure out when our next Final Destination film gets reviewed because they are on our list. So maybe before the end of the year, you'll see some more. From all of us at Something Wicked Entertainment, we hope you've had a great listening experience, and we hope that you will seek out all of the great horror out there. Whether it's modern horror, horror from the 60s, horror from the 30s, we want you to enjoy all different genres of horror and all different decades of horror. From all of us at Something Wicked Entertainment, have a pleasant day, and we'll see you on the next episode. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.